This is the Snelbinder cycling bridge in Nijmegen. It's one of the busiest in the Netherlands and the first part of the bicycle highway that can get you to the neighboring city of Arnhem without ever stopping, which is where I will be going on day 6 of my bike trip across the Netherlands. Today, I begin in Nijmegen with the final destination just 20 kilometers away in Arnhem. This will be by far the shortest day. Well, at least that is the plan. To get to Arnhem, I am taking the Rijnwaalpad, or F325. Opened in 2015, the Rijnwaalpad was the first fast cycle route in Gelderland and offers a smooth path between the two cities. Now, I know I talked about this route in a previous video, but I wanted to experience it for myself to see what it's actually like at rush hour. How many people are actually riding in between two cities on a bicycle highway? Well, from where I was standing, I could already see that it was busy. At least the Snelbinder was, which is the cycling bridge attached to the railway bridge, Spoorbrug Nijmegen. Opening in 1879, the historic railway bridge crosses the wall linking central Nijmegen to the district of Lent in the north. And here on the southern end stands the Landhof bridgehead, once a guardhouse, an anti-aircraft post, and even an artist studio. It has avoided demolition on many occasions, and today you can take a guided tour inside to explore a bit of history. Or you can ride right through on Snelbinder, which just happens to mean bungee cord. Yeah, like the ones you use to attach things to your bicycle rack. Like the way this bridge was attached to the nearly 150-year-old railway bridge back in 2004. And since then, it has become a vital connection across the wall and now sees thousands of cyclists a day. Even back in 2017, it averaged over 6,000 a day, and with the continued rise in population in Lent, it's possible that that number has risen closer to the traffic seen across the Neskio Bridge in Amsterdam at around 9,000 a day. There are a couple options for getting onto the Snelbinder. The first is to simply ride on at one end of the bridge, but the second is a few hundred meters up the way at this stairwell, which might look daunting if you've got a bike with you, not to mention a heavy e-bike fit with 2 stuffed saddlebags. However, this is no ordinary stairwell. It actually has a little conveyor belt to give your bike a boost up to the deck and quickly on your way. So as you can see, this path is insanely busy. I'm on the bridge right now, and I suspect the reason why I'm seeing so many people go into Nijmegen as opposed to coming out the other way is because this isn't just used for people going in between the two cities. There are smaller towns, for example, just across the river here. There's going to be people commuting from closer by. I suspect that's why there's more people going in than coming out at the moment. This becomes very apparent once you reach Lent on the north side, where several paths converge. Most of the traffic coming from the east, and that's the direction I followed, out of Lent and continuing along the Rijnwaalpad towards Arnhem. So at this point, I'm just a few kilometers in. Maybe I've seen 5, 6 people now along this path. Again, I'm only a few kilometers in, but so far, not super used out here. Now, I've heard about this tunnel. There's lights on the walls of this tunnel here, and apparently you can get an app that you can decide on what the colors are. And something like it tracks how often you come through this tunnel and kind of gamifies the route in a sense. You'll often find underpasses like this on many fast cycle routes, which are vital to the flow. And through the entire length of the Rijnwaalpad, you will likely never have to stop once. I believe the only crossing where you have to yield is here near Bemmel. But still, the crossing is raised, narrowed, and doesn't see a lot of car traffic. So while it may be a minor impedance, at least it's safe. Now, the reason they name it the F35 is very simple. These fast cycle routes is they just put them near the highway. That right there is the A35. Keeps it simple. It's like, oh, you want to take the F35? You're like, well, I already know where the car route goes, so sure, yeah, let's go. While we're talking about the highway, we might as well look at the competition. On a bike, center to center should be somewhere around an hour, compared to the car trip that will take you between 20 to 60 minutes, and the train as little as 12 minutes between central stations. Biking may not seem that appealing until you consider it is door-to-door. Arguably, it does that better than the car, and takes a consistent amount of time, which you can shave off with a little boost using a Speed-pedelec, which is like an e-bike on steroids. They can hit speeds of up to 45 kilometers per hour, which means they're legally treated more like mopeds. You need a license, insurance, a special helmet, and a yellow license plate. You're also not allowed on regular bike paths unless they're marked for mopeds. But they are allowed here, as pointed out by these signs. Now, they are required to go no more than 40 kilometers per hour on these paths outside of urban areas and a max of 30 within them. So, riding a Speed-pedelec could theoretically cut down the trip to a consistent 35-ish minutes. So I'm just entering Arnhem South, and from where I came from in Nijmegen to here, super easy, like easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. It's not that interesting, but it's also not terrible, that's for sure. But I didn't see a lot of people, not a lot of people riding down this path. That may have had to do with the weather, the fact that it was already after 10 a.m., or this detour I had to find my way around. I'd like to hear from locals, so let me know about your experience with these fast cycle routes around the country. But after navigating the detour, I made it to the heart of Arnhem. Once a favorite retreat for the wealthy, thanks to the rolling hills and stately parks, the capital on the Rhine is known for its fashion district, green spaces, and connection to the nearby Hoge Veluwe. However, it is much more recent history that dominates the city, which I was first reminded of when crossing this bridge over the lower Rhine into the city center. So if you know the movie A Bridge Too Far, this is the bridge that was too far. This is Arnhem Bridge. Well, it's no longer Arnhem Bridge, it's actually called John Frost Bridge after Major General John Frost, who led British airborne troops into battle here during Operation Market Garden. And as much as I would love to go into the nitty-gritty details of the operation, I'll try to keep it brief. So, 3 months after D-Day, the Allies had a foothold in Europe and were looking for a way into Germany. A plan was hatched, which was Operation Market Garden. Market was the deployment of American, Polish, and British paratroopers between Eindhoven and Arnhem to secure key locations, which would allow for the second part, Garden, a northward thrust from Belgium of Allied tanks through Hell's Highway. And with that, a route to Berlin, bing bang boom, the war is over by Christmas. But this was indeed a Hail Mary, which was dependent on accurate intelligence, cooperation, surprise, and luck. And unfortunately, those things did not line up. Here in Arnhem, British paratroopers managed to capture this bridge, but reinforcements never reached them. And those who could were forced to evacuate. It was, as Lieutenant General Frederick Browning said during the planning stages, a bridge too far. Had the operation been successful, it would have certainly changed history, but let's not go down that theoretical rabbit hole. Because it was a failure, but I think that failure is why I find its history so fascinating. Because the people here didn't hold it against the troops. Quite the opposite, in fact. They have been immortalized by the countless plaques, monuments, and statues in the region. There was even a museum right here near the bridge, which I didn't visit because I had another one in mind just outside of town. But before I went there, I quickly toured the quaint and quiet walkable city center. And this is for the people in the back. Having walkable streets doesn't mean cars or delivery trucks can't exist. So I just stopped off at a cafe in Arnhem. It was called Jimbo. Their panini was delightful. And I'm just heading east to Oosterbeek, I think it's called. And again, I'm going to use that Feet Snoop node system. So I just had to remember 4 numbers, which is 94, 93, 26, 34, which is not too much for me. I can do that. So here we go. Wow, look at this hill. It's so fast. Holy shit. It's got real hills here in Arnhem. In Oosterbeek, I came across this monument in memory of those who fought to liberate the region from Nazi occupation. Depicted are paratroopers descending as they did on September 17, 1944. This spot in Oosterbeek was where British paratroopers passed through on their way to Arnhem. They even battled here, once an old hotel used as headquarters for German command in the region and for a short period by the British. But today it is now home to one of the best war museums I have ever visited. It was a lot more than I expected. That was pretty crazy. I just, expected a typical war museum with weapons and army uniforms and letters and stories, and it has all of that, which was very, very well done. But I was very surprised by 2 things. The first one was down in the basement, there was a temporary exhibit in their identification unit where essentially to this day, they've been working on it for decades since the war ended to locate missing persons from the war. And some of it's pretty gruesome, but that's just the nature of it. But the second thing was in the very basement. They've dug out an entire, basically like not an amusement park, but it feels like a ride, like a walk-through ride, Airborne experience, where you sit inside of a glider, you take off, you land, you get out, you see what it would be like, all the hecticness, the parachutes in the sky, and then the cheers of the people when you walk through Oosterbeek, and then chaos, just chaos, and just listen to the sounds. The audio production was fantastic in there, just really well done, and really gives a good representation of what it might have been like to have been here during that time period. If you're ever in the area, do go check out this museum. Highly recommend it. So my next stop is going to be a national park. I can't pronounce the name. Here it is on the screen. And it was recommended to me by one of the watchers of the last series. So I'm going to check that out along with a museum that is in the park itself that allegedly has some real treasures. I don't have time to burn. It's supposed to rain in about 3 hours hard. It's raining just a tad bit right now, but it's supposed to come down hard at about 5. So I've got myself about 3 hours till then. So I'm racing there as quick as possible. So far, this place is stunning. I mean, like, stunning. So lovely. And the crazy part is, I haven't even entered the park yet. After a very lovely journey, I made it to the gates of the Hoge Veluwe. It is the Netherlands' largest national park with 55 square kilometers of forests, heathlands, and sand dunes right in the heart of the country. Admission costs just under €14, a little extra for car parking, or even more if you want to drive in. However, you can of course walk in for free, bring your own bicycle, or take advantage of the provided white bicycles that can be found just beyond the gates. All right, that's enough. So it's a 10-kilometer ride from that entrance there to the actual museum, which, you know what, sounds like a lot, but I think that's part of the experience. Is why you're here. You're here to see the park, you're here to see the nature. And if the goal is just to go to the museum, well, you can ride a bike anyway, or drive. Do whatever you want. There's that smell again. Just like so fresh. I feel like I'm like gaining life just by breathing this air. Like, it just went from like dense, beautiful forest to just hilly grassland. This is wild. What the fuck? Oh my God, beautiful. This is so cool. Feeling real good. I don't know what it is. This place just surprised me so much. Holy, this is perfect. This is perfect. Okay, I know I said I was in a rush, but I feel like I just have to sit here for a little while because this is so peaceful. This is so nice. Like, massive thank you to the person who recommended this place. Really cool. I was told over and over to check this place out, and I was skeptical. I mean, I live in Vancouver. The mountains are my backyard after all. But let me tell you, this did not disappoint. And when I get asked what my favorite part of the trip was, I can't help but think of this moment right here. I'm glad I didn't just spend the whole day checking out war stuff. This was worth it. This was worth it. The sun's coming out too. Check this out. Beautiful. Dress for the rain, but you know what? Like, everybody loves sunshine. Except for vampires. And Howie. So this is the part I was curious to see, because when you look on maps from an aerial view, you could, you know there's something here. Probably a sand dune. Well, there you go. That's a lot of sand. It's like a beach without the ocean. Those stark changes in the landscape is what made this park so interesting to me. It felt like I was rolling through the distinct biomes in a high-res version of Minecraft. It was really something. And as if that weren't enough, there was much more to see at the world-famous Kröller-Müller. So I'm here at the Kröller-Müller Museum. Apparently it's a second home to Vincent van Gogh, and the museum boasts almost 90 paintings and more than 180 drawings, making it the second largest collection of Van Goghs in the world. It also has other famous artists' stuff as well, like Claude Monet and Pablo Picasso. And if you're wondering, Nick, are you reading that from the brochure that you get at the front desk? Yes, I did. But still, it's cool to see this stuff. I always forget how much I love paintings. Van Gogh's work especially stood out to me. One piece showed people just working by the water with a lift bridge in the background. I could have stared at it for ages. But this wasn't just a stuffy museum. Outside, you can find a massive park that is home to a plethora of sculptures. After indulging myself for a couple hours, it was time to turn back to Arnhem and literally ride uphill in the rain. Storm's brewing. See that rain? That's where we're going. That's where we're going. We've reached this patch again, and it's windy and it's rainy. Oh my God. This wide open space. You really feel the wind. There's nowhere to hide. All right, this is like legit the steepest hill I've had to ride today. It's pushing. I'm pushing. We're pushing, but we're gonna make it. I'm earning dinner tonight. I have to say, I do love a good ride in the rain, even better when it's here in the Netherlands.
The one thing I do like a lot about being here in the Netherlands is that people aren't nice on the road. And like, that's not what I mean, like they're mean or anything, but there's a thing in North America, especially where I live, where people try to be nice when they're driving or even whatever, on their bike or walking. It's like, no, go ahead. It's like, no, be predictable. And that's what I found here. Like, you're crossing a street somewhere where the cars have priority, they'd go because they have priority. It's not like they're just gonna stop to be nice. And it just works so much better when everybody just plays by the rules instead of trying to be nice.
Ironically, I wasn't being very nice since Google led me here to this road, primarily meant for cars.
I don't want to be here. I don't think anybody else wants me to be here, but I am here.
I did eventually find a separated path that allowed me to sail past the traffic jam near the edge of the city center. While the ride from Nijmegen to Arnhem was only 20 kilometers, I ended up cycling close to 70 in total before getting back to the city, soaked in rain. But it's always a good time to point out that I wasn't the only one. Thankfully, my hotel was right by Arnhem Central, which means I had a safe place to store my bike until I was ready to head out tomorrow morning.
You guys want to know what happens when you drive your car in the city center in the Netherlands? See you later. They bring your car to Germany.